no mercy. 2 for 1. Triple down.
Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Deicide, and in this video, we're going to go ahead and learn how to play on the Titan, and more specifically, on the Sentinel Subclass. This brand new reinvented Sentinel Subclass is a complete redesign of the previous Titan subclass known as the Defender Subclass in Destiny 1. With this reinvention comes some fantastic and marvelous improvements on this overall subclass that allows it to be played not just passively but also aggressively, and that's what makes it so universal so that it can fit whatever playstyle that you guys have. On top of all of this, we're going to discuss exactly these pros and cons and these differences from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2 so that you guys know exactly how the subclass is meant to be played and so that it fits you perfectly. The only thing left to do is to eviscerate that subscribe button, and let's jump right into the video. Previously in Destiny 1, there was this wonderful thing that we all knew and did, and that was called Titan Skating. Titan Skating was universal on almost every single Titan subclass, and that's why the Titan as a whole was so powerful, because not only did it have the best armor, but could also have the best maneuverability out of almost any other subclass in the entire game. Now this is also true within this Destiny 2 game, because there's a couple of similarities from Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 in that sense of Titan Skating, and that's exactly what I want to show you via all 3 of the lift possibilities that you guys can choose from. The first one's called High Lift, followed by Catapult Lift, and then Strafe Lift, and all of them do different things. With a High Lift, that's a jump ability that launches you into the air to reach greater heights. Catapult Lift is a jump ability that launches you into the air with a strong initial burst of momentum, and inversely to all of this is called Strafe Lift, and this is a jump ability that launches you into the air with strong directional control. Of all 3 of these jumps, the best jump for you guys to choose from in order for you to be able to Titan Skate the best is to use Strafe Lift. The reason why Strafe Lift is so good is because it gives you that directional control that you need so that whenever you're going into the air and then glide right against the surface, that's exactly what you can do. What I've also noticed is that as you're gliding throughout the surface, and what you see in this game footage too, is that I'm doing this and I noticed that I get my biggest speed boost at the end of the glide. And so because of this, what you have to do is you have to hold that Strafe Lift until the end of the glide so that you guys get that longest burst of momentum to be at the very end and do not interrupt the glide. If you happen to interrupt the glide, then you're not going to get that longest distance covered, and that also means that you're not going to be able to cover horizontal distances faster, and so that's why I would highly recommend that you guys use Strafe Lift, because that is literally the best way to go. You can also use on High Lift and Catapult Lift, but in all honesty, those really don't come into play that often. If you wanted to use Catapult Lift, you could, because that gives you that strong initial burst of momentum, and though I will have to say that's not quite as good for overall Titan Skating, it is very beneficial to get behind cover or to get into the air quickly, and those scenarios definitely use Catapult Lift. If you want to cover horizontal distances faster, then Strafe Lift or Titan Skating is the best way to go for this, but if you want to get behind cover or get into the air quickly, then Catapult Lift is the way to go. The next ability that you guys can choose from, and this is universal to all the Titan subclasses out there regardless of whichever one that you're picking, and that is to either choose a Towering Barricade or a Rally Barricade. This is a completely new ability that's only found within Destiny 2, and it's not found within Destiny 1, but each one of these 2 barricades does something completely different, and let me explain exactly what they do. For a Towering Barricade, that summons a large barrier that can be used to reinforce a position with cover from enemy fire. With the Rally Barricade, you summon a small barrier that allows you to peek over it, and as you do so, you instantaneously reload your equipped weapon while aiming down your sights. So right here we can see a very huge distinction from one thing to the next. The Towering Barricade is meant for defense, but it can also be used as offense, because say for example that you have someone charging you and they happen to come through your shield, and that actually means that what's going to happen is that they take damage as they go through that shield, making them one shot, and so you can either finish them off with your primary or your secondary weapon, or even just go ahead and melee them and poof, they're gone, they're dead. It's fantastic, and so that's why the Towering Barricade is so beneficial, because it can be used in offense or defensive scenarios. Inversely related to this though is that Rally Barricade, and even though it's a very small barricade, it's meant to go behind cover. So it's kind of like an instantaneous thing to give you that cover aspect so that you can stand up and down, and that's going to allow you to not only reload your weapon, but it's also going to be able to allow you to fire continuously while at the same time giving you your own personal cover in whatever kind of scenario that you guys happen to find yourself in. So if you happen to be on B or on a capture point of some kind, you can pop that rally barricade and stand up and down, giving you the cover that you guys need and simultaneously giving you the reload speed, allowing you to down multiple guardians at the exact same time. However, the rally barricade is not very good at blocking off passageways or possibly even holding down a control point as a whole, and so that's why I like to have on the Tyrant barricade personally, because not only can it block off an entire passageway, but it can also give me that instantaneous cover, and it also limits the directions in which people can flank me from based on those passageways or those pathways that I happen to block via the Tyrant barricade. Not just this, but it can also be used in the offensive manner that I previously stated, and so for these reasons, the Tower and Barricade is the one that I personally prefer, but go ahead and try out both and see which one works best for you. One of the most important characteristics, regardless of whatever kind of subclass that you guys happen to be using, is the grenades. And on the Sentinel Subclass, we have 3 particular grenades, one of which is actually intrinsic and can only be found on the subclass. The first grenade that we've got is called a magnetic grenade, and a magnetic grenade is a grenade that attaches to enemies and explodes twice, flinching the enemy guardian back to back, giving a minor damage output. The second grenade that we have is called a suppressor grenade, and this is the one that is intrinsic and can only be found on the Sentinel subclass. With a suppressor grenade, this is an explosive grenade that prevents enemies from using the abilities for a short period of time, causing damage simultaneously. The last grenade that we've got is one that's called a void wall grenade. A void wall grenade is a grenade that creates a horizontal wall of burning void light to damage guardians over an extended time duration. Of all 3 of these grenades, you can see how they are very different from one thing to the next, and they all have their particular case scenarios in which they shine. The one that I happen to use the most, and the one that I believe is the most powerful, and is also the one that's only intrinsic on this subclass, is called the suppressor grenade. The reason why I like this subclass so much is because not only can this grenade do a lot of damage, sometimes all the way up to 120 points of damage, but at the exact same time, it prevents the enemy guardians from using their abilities. What this does is it prevents them from using 1, a grenade, number 2, a melee, and number 3, it prevents them from running away. This ultimately means that if they're caught in that suppressor grenade, they can't jump, they can't do anything, and they're pretty much like a sitting duck. One other feature that I've got to mention about the suppressor grenade is that this is the only grenade in this entire game that can actually take a guardian out of their super. For this reason and for this reason alone, this subclass is phenomenal and stupendous because the suppressor grenade is so drastically powerful in comparison to every other type of grenade. If you want to, you guys could also go ahead and use a void wall grenade, as that prevents enemy guardians from coming at you, because if they happen to come through this wall of fire, then that is ultimately going to burn them and or damage them, and they're going to have to retreat. So it's very nice to give you that defense aspect of gameplay, but you could also use it offensively, as you can go ahead and toss it on a capture point, and that's going to cause the enemy team to leave that capture point, ultimately allowing you to keep it or to capture or do whatever that you still see fit. With the magnetic grenade, this grenade used to be extremely powerful back in Destiny 1, but since its return back in Destiny 2, these things are complete and utter garbage. I would highly recommend that you guys do not even touch these things and only go with the suppressor grenade or the void wall grenade, because with a magnetic grenade, not only do you have to actually attach it to a guardian, but the damage output is not very drastic, and so because of this, it almost makes it null and void. What I would highly recommend that you guys do use is number 1, the suppressor grenade, for all the reasons that I previously stated, but you could also contemplate using the void wall grenade and use whichever one that fits your playstyle the best. One of the most difficult decisions that you guys are going to have to make within the Sentinel subclass is to use one of the 2 builds. You have a skill tree that's called Code of the Protector, and you also have a skill tree that's called Code of the Aggressor. With Code of the Protector, this build is designed around 1 key attribute, and that is your melee. Inversely related to this, you have Code of the Aggressor, which is not designed around 1 key trait, but rather it's designed around multiple traits, because it's more of a universal build. You have abilities that benefit your grenade, your melee, your super, and all of the above, and so that's why you guys can see as why this one is more of a universal build in comparison to that of the Code of the Protector, where it's focused only around your melee. Exactly how that's done is what I'm going to get into right now, so let me go ahead and discuss the Code of the Protector build first. With Code of the Protector, you have 1 key trait, and that is to have on Rallying Force. With Rallying Force, it states that your melee kills restore health for you and nearby allies. This is exactly what you want to have on a subclass build, because anytime that you can get your health back from melee is absolutely phenomenal and stupendous, and not just this, but it also heals your nearby allies, which is incredible. The next perk that we've got is called Defensive Strike, and Defensive Strike states that melee kills create an overshield around you and once again, nearby allies. So right here we can see that just by meleeing one enemy, not only are we going to get our health, but we're also going to get a barrier and or an overshield that can benefit not just us, but also our teammates as well. The next perk that we've got is called Turn the Tide, and Turn the Tide states that your overshield from defensive strike lasts longer and increases melee damage as well as your reload speed. So right here we can really see as to how this entire Code of the Protector build is designed around your melee. We have Rallying Force, we have Defensive Strike, and also Turn the Tide that all benefits our melee, giving us number 1, health regeneration, number 2, an overshield, and number 3, having that overshield last longer while increasing our reload speed. I mean, there's nothing possibly wrong with this entire build in terms of your melee, because as soon as you want to go ahead and get a melee, you're proccing 3 abilities, which is why the subclass build is solely designed around that melee. This subclass build is really designed to be a tank, and so you have to have on some type of exotic or some other type of perk that allows you to play very, very aggressively so that you'll get up close and personal to other people to allow you to proc this melee ability as much as you possibly can. The very last perk that we've got here on this subclass is one that's called Ward of Dawn. And Ward of Dawn states that when your super energy is full, press and hold the top shoulder buttons to create a shielding dome to protect you and your allies. Essentially what this is stating is that this is the exact same perk that we were able to use back in Destiny 1 for the Defender Shield, but in this case we can have the option to either use our Captain America shield or possibly use the Ward of Dawn bubble, and that can be used once again in an offensive or a defensive manner. The next build and the next skill tree that we have to discuss is of course Code of the Aggressor. With Code of the Aggressor, we have our first perk, and that first perk is called Superior Arsenal. Superior Arsenal states that grenade kills regenerate your grenade energy, and this is exactly what you want to have. With a grenade kill, you're going to regen your grenade energy, and if you happen to have on different types of armor mods that are going to increase that grenade recharge rate, this is exactly what you want to have, because that grenade is going to come into play quite often. The next perk that we've got is called Shield Bash, and Shield Bash states that after sprinting for a short period of time, your melee ability is going to unleash a devastating Shield Bash that disorientates enemies. Exactly what this is a shoulder charge back from Destiny 1, and so this is going to come into play in one of 2 ways. Not only can you use it in that aggressive manner, but you can also use it in a maneuverability standpoint, because what this allows you to do is go ahead and do that shoulder charge around corners, which is going to give you that third-person perspective to give you a larger peripheral vision and ultimately see around corners that you normally couldn't without having done that Shield Bash. Personally, I like to have on that Shield Bash just for that maneuverability aspect alone, because with that maneuverability aspect, you're very, very beneficial to go ahead and peek around corners, and that simply can't be done within the Code of the Protector build. The next perk that we've got is called In the Trenches, and In the Trenches states that kills while surrounded by enemies reduces the cooldown of your super. So once again, this is a fantastic perk to have, because we're always trying to get our super back as much as we possibly can anyway, and so yes, it's very beneficial, but in all honesty, we're not going to be getting our super back that often, once, maybe twice per game if we're actually lucky enough to get it twice per game. The last perk that we have on this Code of the Aggressor build is called Second Shield. Second Shield states that you gain an additional shield throw while your Sentinel shield is active. This is fantastic and a stupendous perk, but once again, it only comes in play whenever you have your super. So with this entire Code of the Aggressor build, we have 2 perks that really affect our super, and only 2 perks that actually affect our continuous gameplay. Inversely related to this, we have the Code of the Protector build, and that build affects 3 abilities continuously throughout our gameplay, and only has 1 perk that actually affects our super. If we solely look at that of the Code of the Protector build, we can see that this one is designed to be very, very aggressive and to proc that melee as much as you possibly can. With the Code of the Aggressor build, we can see that this one is designed for a more of a universal play to combine all of your abilities into one playstyle, and so you really have to choose between one or the other. Personally, I like to have on Code of the Protector because that encourages a very, very aggressive playstyle, but again, this is entirely up to you. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this down in the comment section below. The very last thing that I want to say about the Sentinel Subclass is to note how you guys have got to use this super. The super can be incredibly powerful and truly stupendous on many levels, but if you don't know how to use it properly, then this is going to be one of the worst supers to actually use. So right off the bat, I want to note that you guys have got to pop your super behind cover. Always pop it behind cover because that's going to allow you to then engage the enemies at full health. That's ultimately going to allow you to do your shield toss right off the bat as well. The reason that I want you guys to toss your shield first is because number 1, that's going to damage the enemy guardians, and that's ultimately going to allow them to panic. As soon as they panic, they're going to start to run away, and this is when you can use the maneuverability of the super to close the gap and actually incinerate them and smash them to smithereens. How this is done is by going into the air. So as soon as you get into the air, I want you to hit R1 once and then R1 twice, and that's going to allow you to cover much further horizontal distances. And on that second shield bash, that's going to absolutely give you a huge boost in damage output, and that damage output is easily going to one-shot a Guardian, no problem whatsoever. So not only does this maneuverability allow you to cover larger horizontal distances faster, but it also allows you to do more damage output, and no matter how that you look at it, it's a win-win scenario. This is exactly how you guys have got to use that super to number 1, pop it behind cover, number 2, toss your shield, number 3, close the gap by hitting R1 once and hitting R1 twice, and that's also going to cause massive damage outputs, allowing you to absolutely obliterate the enemy team. With all this being said, not only do you guys know how to most effectively use your super, but you also have a very solid understanding of the entire subclass as a whole. You understand its strengths and its weaknesses, and how to utilize all those abilities to fit your playstyle the best. If you're like me and you like to play very aggressively, then what I would strongly advise you guys to use is Strafe Lift, followed by Towering Barricade, along with the Suppressor Grenade and the Code of the Protector skill tree, because all 4 of those things are going to allow you to be very aggressive, and it's going to make the enemy Guardians a little bit scared. Now let me know what you guys think of all this down in the comment section below, and also some of the builds that you guys happen to run, and also those playstyles, because I'm very intrigued to hear all those things. Lastly, go ahead and check out some of my other new videos, as you guys can see right there on the screen. If you happen to enjoy this one, you're definitely going to enjoy those as well. That's pretty much all I've got for you as of right now, and so as always, deislayers, great gaming, until next time.